Hey everyone, welcome to the Friday, September 26th, 2025 episode of On Iowa Politics. This week on the podcast, there's a new agenda-setting leader in the Iowa Senate, and the 2nd District Republican primary field grew. Hello everyone, I'm Erin Murphy, the Des Moines Bureau Chief for the Gazette in Cedar Rapids. With me this week, our Gazette Deputy Bureau Chief, Tom Barton. Hello, Tom.
Hello, Erin.
Tom playing hurt, battling through a little seasonal something. We appreciate you fighting through it, Tom, and staying quick on that cough button as well. Maya Marchel Hoff for the lead Des Moines Bureau is with us. Hello, Maya.
Good afternoon, Erin.
We have Gazette columnist Althea Cole here. Hello, Althea.
Hello, Erin.
And finally, Gazette columnist Todd Dorman. Hello, Todd.
Howdy, Erin.
All right. We're going to start this week under the Golden Dome. Remember that place? We haven't been back there much in the last few months. Iowa Senate Republicans this week elected a new majority leader. And as we talked about previously, and you hopefully have read in our reporting, Senator Jack Whitford recently announced his resignation as majority leader in order to spend more time with his family and focus on his bout with a brain tumor that he was diagnosed with last year. Senate Republicans met Wednesday to elect Whitford's successor, and they chose Senator Mike Klimesh of Spillville up in northeast Iowa. For anyone who's not familiar, majority leader is a critical position in state government, as the individual is largely responsible for setting the legislative agenda in the Iowa Senate. So, Maya, given that, tell us what we all should know about Senator Mike Klimesh.
Yeah, Senator Mike Klimesh of northeastern Iowa, particularly Senate District 32, has served in the legislature since 2021 after he was elected in 2020. In the last session, he served in multiple leaderships on multiple committees in the Senate, including as chair of the Senate Health and Human Services Committee, vice chair of the Local Government Committee, and then vice chair of the Health and Human Services Appropriations Subcommittee in the Senate. He's 56 years old, and before being in the legislature, he was mayor of Spillville for 22 years, and he managed a printing company for 20 years. Just for reference, Spillville is a town of about 370 residents. I just wanted to look up the population to see how small it was, and it's in northeast Iowa where he's from. His district covers parts of Howard, Winneshiek, and Clayton counties, and smaller portions of Fayette and Dubuque counties. One notable piece of legislation that he ran last year, he was the floor manager, fittingly because he was the chair of the Health and Human Services Committee, was the PBM bill. He was the floor manager for that, and so he was talking a lot on the floor last year about that key piece of legislation. That was one of the focal points of the session last year.
Yeah, I remember him well from the PBM debate as well. The other moment that is, I think, of Senator Klimesh and the work he's done that stands out to me is he was very prominent in the eminent domain debate in the last week of the session. He did not floor manage that bill. That was Senator Mike Buslow of Ankeny. But he got up during that debate, and he was on the side of the group of Senate Republicans that wanted the sort of he was on the Buslow amendment side and not with the hardcore eminent domain folks on the other roughly half of the Senate Republican caucus, and he got up during that debate and had some pretty strong words and pointed questions during that debate, and that one sticks out as I think of Senator Klimesh as well. And he's now taking over as majority leader, so he's effectively running the show in the Senate next year. Moving on, we wanted to talk this week about the campaign trail, specifically in eastern Iowa, where the 2nd Congressional District Republican primary field has grown by 2. Shortly after this podcast hit the airwaves last Friday, former Congressman Rod Blum of Dubuque announced his candidacy. And then Tuesday, state lawmaker Shanon Lundgren of Piasta announced her campaign. Both had previously said they were considering a run, so we've probably mentioned them on the podcast before. If you've been following along with us or read our coverage, the names probably don't surprise you. they're both official now. Tom, you covered both of those announcements. What else do we need to know about this newly expanded Republican primary field?
Yeah, what really stands out with these two new entries is just how competitive this Republican primary is shaping up to be in the 2nd District. You've got two different but equally recognizable names. As you mentioned, you have Rod Blum, of course, is a former congressman from Dubuque. He served 2 terms, first winning in 2014 before losing in 2018 to Democrat Abby Finkenauer, who went on to serve 1 term, and then was ousted by Republican Ashley Hinson, who is vacating the seat as she is running for U.S. Senate in 2026, looking to succeed current Iowa GOP U.S. Senator Joni Ernst, who recently announced in the last month or couple months that she is not going to seek re-election in 2026, so making this now a open seat race. Blum is pitching himself as someone with experience in Washington who wants to get back in to help advance President Trump's America First agenda. He's also signaled he's serious about this run by pledging $250,000 of his own money right out of the gate to jumpstart his campaign. His platform, I guess is not all that surprising. It's focused on border security, fair trade, and energy independence, and he's leaning heavily on both his business background and his ties to Trump. Shanon Lundgren, meanwhile, is a state representative from Piasta and a small business owner, and she's built a reputation in Des Moines as a loyal conservative and a floor manager of some of the more, or maybe most contentious legislation at the State House in recent years, most notably Iowa's 6-week abortion ban. She's also been out in front on immigration enforcement, kind of law and order bills, the so-called Back the Blue bill, in supporting law enforcement and restricting transgender participation in sports. In her announcement, she really emphasized her early support for Trump and framing herself as a fighter who's been with him from the beginning. So now we have Blum, Lundgren, State Senator Charlie McClintock, and former state lawmaker Joe Mitchell, all jockeying for the nomination in a district that has been reliably Republican in recent years. But election forecasters have recently shifted this race from solid Republican to likely Republican because of Hinson's decision to run for the Senate. And as I mentioned, now creating an open seat. It signals that Democrats think that they have an opening here too. You've got State Representative Lindsey James and a few others already in the race. But bottom line, this primary is kind of quickly becoming one of the marquee races to watch in Iowa. Again, you've got a former congressman looking for a comeback, a rising conservative lawmaker who's carved out a Trump-aligned brand in Des Moines, in a district that's still Republican-leaning, but not quite a lock.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Tom, about the strength of this field, not just the number, because I think experience would suggest that by the time you get to 4 or 5 candidates in a primary field, and we've got 4 here, a lot of times there's at least one of those that, let's be polite and say is a long shot candidate. That's really not the case with any of these 4. Like they, as you mentioned and laid out very well there, they all have strong bios, and you can make solid arguments for each one of them of why they could win this primary. So yeah, that's a good point, and makes that one interesting to watch. We're going to come back to that with Althea, but Todd, let me ask you, because you wrote about Rod Blum's attempt to return to Congress in your column this week. Give us a little taste of what you wrote about there.
Well, I wrote about some issues that Blum ran into when he ran for re-election in 2018. There was a story that the Associated Press broke in February of that year, pointing out that Blum hadn't reported in his financial disclosures information about a firm that he had founded called Tin Moon. Beyond that, there were other problems with it. The website for the company used his congressional photo, which apparently is a no-no. And also one of his staff members appeared in what basically turned out to be a fake testimonial on the company's website, touting the work of Tin Moon, which, raised a lot of eyebrows. And what the business's main purpose was also didn't sit well with some people. It was basically a company that would help other companies bury Food and Drug Administration penalties in that they might have suffered, and kind of bury them in the web searches so that they wouldn't come up on the first page and hurt their business. Office of Ethics looked into it. They issued a report, but it was kept confidential for a while. It was finally released in December, and they did find evidence to strongly suggest that Blum had violated ethics rules with these actions. Blum said it was a clerical error. He said he didn't know anything about the website. He blamed the media, which is always a good play. The report was finally released in December of 2018, and it, like I say, it showed that they had reason to believe that these were ethical lapses. And the ethics committee said they would investigate, but of course, Blum lost the election, and it was December, and the clock just sort of ran out. So there was never any final sort of closure. But how much did it have? I mean, how much did it hurt Blum? I think it sort of did. I mean, 2018 was a good year for Democrats, obviously, but it certainly didn't help. Having this sort of case looming over your campaign. So, yeah, so it was a no good, very bad year for Rod Blum, and now he's making his comeback.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you point that out too, because of 2018 specifically, as you noted, that was a good year for Iowa Democrats, about the only one that they've had in the last decade of election cycles. 3 of the 4 congressional seats they won that year, including what was then the 1st district when Abby Finkenauer beat Rod Blum's. And interesting too, because if the Democrats who are wanting to be optimistic about this cycle, 2018 is sort of the template they have in their mind, as we're in a first midterm after Trump being elected, just like 2018 was after his 2016 election. So I guess Rod Blum getting his second crack at that here. Well, the Republican primary first. Speaking of Althea, there's plenty of time and more candidates could emerge, but I think there's a decent chance that this 2nd district Republican primary field is done growing. We'll see, but let's assume for the moment, for point of today's discussion, that does turn out to be the case. Give us your way too early handicapping of this GOP primary field, and again, as Tom noted here, reminding listeners that Republicans are shooting here to maintain a seat that was previously held by Ashley Hinson before she moved over to the Senate campaign.
As you've said, there are 4 what I would call pretty strong candidates here. Unlike the Democratic primary and the Republican primary in Iowa's 2nd district. Sorry, they keep flipping every time we redistrict, so I got to really think about it. 2nd district. All 4 of the declared candidates so far have legislative experience. So we've already discussed Congressman Blum, the whole Tin Moon thing. Blum already has a lot of support from previous loyal followers from the 2014 and 2016 and 2018 campaign cycles. And he won in 2014 in a really tight race against then Iowa State Representative Pat Murphy, who was previously the Speaker of the House of Representatives last time they had Democratic control. He wasn't really expected to win that race, but 2014 was a really good year for federal Republicans, particularly in Iowa, because it wasn't a done deal that then State Senator Joni Ernst was going to win either. Blum had a much easier time of it in 2016, but again, 2016 was a really, really, really good year for Iowa Republicans, both at the federal and state levels.
Yeah, that was the year that started the trifecta, the 2016
correct.
election. Yep.
You are correct. That was when Republicans picked up 8 seats, including that of longtime Senate Majority Leader Mike Gronstal from Western Iowa. So that was a big year. As far as Blum in the United States House of Representatives, and I may have mentioned this on a previous podcast, his very first vote as a United States congressman in January of 2015 was who should be the Speaker of the House. And, the understanding is that, if you want to accomplish anything, if there's anything that you want, you're going to vote for Speaker of the House, John Boehner. And he did not do that. And I don't recall for whom it was that Congressman Blum voted, but the fact that he did not vote for John Boehner did not make him any friends within his caucus. Regardless of what you think of the concept itself, you have to have friends within your caucus if you want to accomplish anything, especially when you are from a district that is as purple as Congressman Blum's, was at the time, and arguably still is. Now, that being said, there is a different electoral makeup of voters in Iowa's 2nd District. And for that matter, there are different counties. Instead of the 20 that made up Iowa's previous 1st District, we now have 22 counties in what is now the 2nd District in Northeast Iowa. But most of those counties are the same. So the fact that Blum doesn't have a whole lot of friends within the federal Republican caucus, that may be something to consider when it comes to his chances in how he does in a primary, and therefore, more specifically, how he would do in a general election should he happen to pull it off in the primary. Lundgren, who's from Piasta, she's already rolled out a heck of a lot of endorsements from her fellow state representatives. She's not a terrible fundraiser by any means. In Charlie McClintock, I wouldn't call him a bad fundraiser. At the same time, his entrance into the race was the one that caught people, including myself, off guard. We had no idea that he was considering doing so. As far as what his chances are in the Republican primary, he's a really good state senator. He's liked within his caucus. I don't know if he's really got enough to outdo everybody else in the primary. Joe Mitchell can definitely raise some money. And the reason I keep referring to fundraising is because, again, this is regardless of whether you're Republican or Democrat. It absolutely matters how much money you can raise for your campaign. Even if you have way too much money for your own campaign, Rob Sand, a lot of that money can still be used to help others in your caucus. So that's why members of your caucus, members of your party are looking for how much you can fundraise. Can you buy your own ads? Can you fund your own activities? And can you help out your fellow party members in their tough races? And then you got Joe Mitchell, who Joe Mitchell is a pretty good fundraiser. And I noticed that when I was looking through his fundraising reports back in the spring of 2022, when redistricting put him in the same district as State Representative Jeff Shipley. Now, if you've ever heard the name Jeff Shipley, he is a Republican state legislator who lives in, I believe, northern Van Buren County. And he is a legal advocate and mushroom evangelist, according to his legislative profile. Shipley beat him in a primary. So that says that the amount of money that you can raise doesn't necessarily guarantee that it's in the bag for you. You still have to really work for it. When Mitchell served in the state house, he was serving as the representative from Mount Pleasant, which is in Henry County. Henry County is in Iowa's 1st district. So that's not even the same district for which Mitchell is running. He has now moved into the district. At least I hope so. I certainly hope it says so on his campaign forms. But even though we've got a lot of legislative experience here, I'm not sure that Mitchell is well known enough in the district. I'm not sure his fundraising prowess or all of the big name friends he has would be enough. I'm still not making any predictions. I still think it'll be a very interesting primary, but that's the report from me.
Yeah, and that's interesting. I had forgotten until you mentioned that, Althea, that Shipley Mitchell primary, which was the result, and forgive me if you said this, of redistricting that year. The 2 Republican incumbents in the state house got drawn into the same district, and so they were forced to run against each other.
And I am going to argue that in the game, not of legislating, but in the game of politics, losing to Jeff Shipley in a primary is at the very least something that Mitchell is going to have to explain to the money guys behind closed doors.
Interesting. Todd, that's the view of the Republican field. For the Democrats, and they have their own competitive primary, as Tom and Althea noted. Obviously, they'd rather face any one of these than Ashley Hinson as an incumbent. What do you think? And I know it's always dangerous to try to get inside folks' head, but when the Democrats look at that primary field, do they see a winnable election here in this district?
Part of the problem with my prediction is I can't exactly remember everybody that's running in the Democratic primary.
Yeah.
So
Tom, run that down for us real quick.
You've got State Representative Lindsey James,
Right.
Democrat from Dubuque and a Presbyterian chaplain. You have Clint Tweet Ball, former longtime leader of a Cedar Rapids nonprofit, Matthew 25. And then you have retired Army nurse and former College of Nursing Dean Kathy Dolter of Asbury. I believe she was the former dean of nursing at Kirkwood Community College. And then you have Don Primus of Steamboat Rock, a former state park manager.
That's right. There you go.
Okay.
So they've got their own four-way primary as well.
Yeah,
broadly speaking.
I think Lindsey James probably goes in with some advantages. I mean, she's served in the legislature. She was in leadership. She's been a name in the Democratic Party for a while. I don't know how well she's known outside of the Dubuque area, but that's an important part of the district. So I would say, I mean, nothing against the other candidates. I think, in a crowded primary, somebody that sort of has some natural advantages is going to put some distance between them, but I could be wrong. It could be the Steamboat Rock guy. He could take this whole damn thing.
I don't know. Does the Steamboat Rock guy have the Russian lady from Orange is the New Black coming to stump for him?
That's right.
Lindsey James did.
Yes, the actor Kate Mulgrew, who is a Dubuque native, who, portrayed Captain Catherine Janeway on Star Trek Voyager and also portrayed Red on Orange is the New Black. Yeah, she was in Lynn County earlier this week campaigning with Lindsey James.
It's going to be handy for Lindsey to be able to beam up and just go to any place in the district. That's going to be a big advantage, I think.
Nerd.
You can do the county tour, and you can do the 22 county tour in 12 hours.
By the way, I can say that because I am one. You learn it all here on the On Iowa Politics podcast. All right, that's going to do it for this week. But before we sign off, a quick programming note for everybody. Next week is the Gazette's annual Iowa Ideas virtual conference. So because a bunch of us will be tied up with that, we won't be able to record a podcast episode next week. But we will nonetheless drop something for you, as we've done in past years. We'll share with you one of the panels, one of the sessions from that Iowa Ideas conference, and we always manage to find one that at the very least tangentially, if not directly, relates to some of the stuff that we talk about here on the podcast. So you can still watch for that next week. And speaking of Iowa Ideas, please check that out. It's next Thursday and Friday, October 2nd and 3rd. Once again, we have a great list of sessions and discussions, some really great keynote addresses, including, if you're like me, jumps off the page, Kirk and Mary Ferentz. Should be fascinating. The entire event is free and online. You can check out the schedule, pick which sessions you want to check out and listen to, and get registered for the conference. Again, totally free at iowaideas.com. So we hope you check that out and join us next week. That's going to do it for this episode of On Iowa Politics. If you're not already, please subscribe to us on your streaming service of choice. We're on YouTube, where you should also smash the like button. You can also find the podcast each and every week on your preferred Gazette or Lean newspaper website. Now that you've listened to the On Iowa Politics podcast, make sure you're also subscribed to the On Iowa Politics newsletter, where every morning in your inbox, you'll receive all the latest politics and government coverage from our team. You can subscribe to that free newsletter at the Gazette's website, thegazette.com. Lastly, don't forget that the work of everyone you hear here today can be found on the pages and websites of the Quad City Times, Muscatine Journal, Cedar Rapids Gazette, Waterloo Cedar Falls Courier, Mesa City Globe Gazette, Council Bluffs Daily Nonpareil, and the Sioux City Journal. For Tom Barton, Maya Marchel, Althea Cole, Todd Dorman, and our producer Bailey Cichon, I'm Erin Murphy. Be well, everyone, and be good.